This podcast sometimes uses strong language, and it may cover topics that require viewer discretion. Also, it's a podcast. It's not a primary source of information. If you'd like to follow along visually with the show, or read any of the papers we talk about yourself, you can find all of those links and more at ridiculousresearchreview.com. Do either of you have a scientist find for us?
James said he would bring one.
He did say he would bring one.
Well,
If you didn't, I have one, but it does mean that I'm doing all the work here.
James didn't do his homework. You're basically identical to my undergrads. You took so long to leave school. All you know how to do.
y'all. This one's even topical.
Oh goodness.
Scientists. It's not a scientist find, but the scientists say.
Okay.
Scientists say they've revived the direwolf through biotech companies' de-extinction process.
Yeah.
Colossal Biosciences said it restored the long-extinct canine species. You guys heard this story, right?
Yeah, and mostly what it boils down to, as far as I can understand, is you thought so much about whether you could, you never asked if you should.
Yeah, I mean, here and also, could you? Do you think did you actually? Because when you look at what they actually did, is they say it in the article on ABC News. We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to direwolves because they're very closely related, as Shapiro said, and we've edited those cells in multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the direwolf version of the DNA. Mm-hmm. It is.
So, as far as I understand, they made some messed up gray wolves.
They took some gray wolves and modified their DNA, and they look like maybe what direwolves looked like, maybe.
But it's just dog breeding, right? That's all this is?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Making new puppies.
It's very fancy. It's very fancy dog breeding, funded by Tom Brady and Tiger Woods and a bunch of billionaires.
Yeah.
Wait,
Tom Brady
really,
puppy mill.
Is it? Is it really a Tom Brady puppy mill?
Literally, Tom Brady is one of the investors.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually real good.
You've been burying the lead here, bud.
But has no one realized that Tom Brady is a fucking scam artist yet? Like, he did concussion water. He did his cryptocurrency scam. Like, come on, guys. Tom Brady is not a reliable source.
Oh, here you go. Colossal says its investors include Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, Paris Hilton, and Peter Jackson.
Oh, man. What an all-star cast of investors.
It really takes a swing there at the end for me with Peter Jackson.
It really does. Hey, he's trying to get them to make OnlyFans so that it's easier to make the next movie.
No.
You know?
I mean,
okay, no, that actually tracks. That tracks.
No, but if Peter gets them to actually breed him a real direwolf, then he doesn't have to CGI anymore.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
right. That's
Okay, so
exactly
he's the
right.
only one of those investors that makes sense. Welcome to the Ridiculous Research Review. My name is Edie Churchill. I am a nonprofit professional, and I exist here. And you might be wondering why I'm introducing things today, and that's because today it's my turn.
Well, you're introducing yourself first because, unlike me, you were quick on the uptake and you managed to override James before he could start his little intro spiel that he loves to do.
It's also correct.
I love to do. Interesting. That's an interesting characterization.
Anyway, I'm Pat Brennan. I am a professor of technical theater, a game designer, and the bringer of whimsy to the podcast. Could you not tell by my deadpan reading?
I dig it.
Sorry.
It's important. We gotta have a straight man at some point.
Oh man, I'm James Lynch, PhD.
Dude, you're missing so much. Hold up, go back.
What is it? $50 a letter? There's at least like $400 you owe me right there.
No. I am Dr. James Lynch, PhD, PE.
Thank you.
I just want to let everybody know that if you have enough time and self-hatred, you too can get a whole bunch of extra letters around your name, and then have your friends mock you for it for the rest of your life. But I'm an engineer and a scientist, and I'm into robotics and bugs. And right now, I've been gardening a lot.
That's nice.
And that's been nice.
We're not mocking you. We're making sure you get your money's worth.
Today I'm here to listen because I'm so excited to see what Edie has brought for us today.
Well, so we're gonna do a whole bunch of things that are a little different today.
What?
In a couple ways. We'll get to some of them, but the very first thing that we're gonna do to break some rules is we're gonna participate in the study.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, actually.
It's okay. This is really simple. We're doing a psychological study today,
Is
which
the door
we have
to my
not
office
done.
locked? Can I leave? Am I
No.
trapped?
Yes, you are indeed trapped. You cannot go anywhere. We're doing a psychological study today, which we have not done anything from psychology yet in the podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about why that is eventually. But for starters, let's just jump right into this.
Oh, this can only go well.
Quickly, name a thing.
Apple.
Okay. Some rules. These should be things that you interact with regularly, like generally on a daily basis. It can be anything. A person, a tool, a software, just a thing. And I need each of you to pick one.
Okay, can I stay with Apple?
You can stay with Apple.
I interact with that regularly.
Cool. James, what's your thing?
I was going to say plant. Does it have to be more specific than plant?
No. Plant could be a thing. That's fine.
Great. A plant is a thing.
I'm so concerned.
The second and only other part of this game. How could the thing be different? Pat, how could an apple be different?
I'm looking for the trap. This is like, I'm just like wandering into like, there's a cardboard box on a stick and you've got the string and I just know it. And I don't know where it is. I'm so concerned.
Oh boy.
The apple could be blue?
Could be blue.
That's
Okay.
different.
That is different.
It is different.
Sure. James, how could plants be different?
Tall.
Tall.
You know.
Some plants are tall.
Hey, they could be taller.
Okay, they could be taller. So I'm gonna press both of you a little bit further. Pat, if apples were blue, would that make them better, worse, or neutral?
I'm going to say neutral.
Neutral. Okay.
I need a blue apple.
James, if plants were taller, would they be better, worse, or neutral?
I think just based on how everybody thinks that sequoias are really cool,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say better.
I would also say better, more shade for me.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, more shade is good.
What we've shown here is that Pat is an outlier freak.
What?
And
The trap! It sprung!
and James is right in with everybody else. Because the thing is,
We knew it. We knew
things
it.
could be better.
What?
So this is
Oh
actually
my
the name
God.
of the study is things could be better.
Okay.
And what happened is two guys sitting eating some omelets decided that to ask a question of like, why is it that people like seem to always, when you ask them if something's different, they always seem to think that like of something that of why it could be better, right? And they thought like maybe this is a comparative thing. Like they use Congress as an example. Why do people hate Congress and love their phones? And like that's obvious. Congress is bad and my phone is good. That is simple and easy. So is it always a comparative thing? What is going on here? Why do we imagine things better when we ask how they could be different?
So to be clear, they're wondering why don't what is a reason that people are not saying, well, you know, every plant could be explosive, and I could have said that, but I didn't.
Yeah, they're more wondering like, is this a constant or is this just like coincidental? So they jumped into some studies. And so the very first study they did was how could thing be different, right? Exactly the story we just did.
All right.
They put together a group of 243 people. They paid them $1 to $1.20 a piece because it's a very quick thing. And they asked them, hey, can you take this list of 52 items we've had? And we're going to just ask you, like, well, how could it be different? And then we're going to follow up with, if the thing was different in that way, how much better or worse would it be? And they used a -3 to a +3 scale. And what they found, weirdly, is that every single item was imagined to be better.
What?
Across the board. Every single thing that people picked, when they gave an idea of how it could be different, they imagined a way it could be better.
Okay, so to just ask a question here for a second now, did all of their participants... Sorry, I need to back up for a second. Paying somebody $1 to $1.20 is a hilarious amount for a study. Like, I'm assuming that this is just
I agree. That's why I included the detail, because it's so very
I'm assuming
funny.
this was like at a mall or something, and they were like handing out, $1 or whatever. But this is a tangent that will get cut. But James, in reference to that game design problem I was talking about last night, where like people don't understand small
Yes.
increments, my immediate reaction is I would rather have $1 than $1.20, because 2 dimes is annoying. Objectively more, I don't want it.
Yes.
We're gonna come back to that later.
Oh, good. Yeah, so there's going to be some game design theory in here, is what I'm saying.
That's amazing.
Did they imagine better things, or did they imagine random things and rank them better?
So they took a list. So they did a pre-study on this, right? There was a study 0 where they took a random sample of 91 people and asked them to just list things that they interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they kept all the items that were listed by 6 or more people.
Right.
And they dropped a few items like girlfriend, because they figured not everybody has a girlfriend.
Sure, that makes sense.
But they were left with a list of 52 items. They took that list of 52 items to this group of 243 people and said, how could X be different? Right? How could food be different? They then took all of those responses and said, okay, if food were different in this way, would it be better or worse? And they asked them to do it on this -3 to +3 scale.
I think this is going to be very interesting to think about. I know that I tend to be a change-averse person, right? Like, if I find a thing that works,
Right.
I will just stick with the thing. So I'm wondering if my outlier thoughts are going to continue. I'm curious to find out. Please continue.
It is interesting. I will say what's interesting here is that it wasn't just like on average that every single item was better. It was like right down to an individual participant. So only about 10% of folks ranked anything as like, oh, it would be worse if you did that to it.
And just to clarify, the slide we are seeing now is sort of like just a general chart showing, where these folks rank things as better or worse on the +3 to -3 scale kind of a thing. And yeah, basically every single data point is above the neutral line. So it's better.
This is like kind of crazy results.
Yeah.
Like it's weird to have that strong of a consensus in any sort of psychological study. To quote the researcher directly, in psychology, that pretty much never happens. Even with a question as obvious as, would you rather get $5 or get hit in the head with a wrench, you might get something like 90% of participants saying $5, please, but the rest of them would say wrench, either because they're trolling you or they have a wrench fetish.
I hate this quote.
Keep going. 'Cause I can't,
Yes.
What do you mean keep going? I regret that you've brought it
I'm going
here.
to keep going because this references what is a man named Scott Alexander calls the lizard man constant, which is that like there will always be these sort of obstinate folks in your studies. For the example that's used is that 4% of Americans believe that a lizard man is running the earth, and a further 7% aren't sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Because that's just how people respond to study, whether they like truly believe lizard men are running the earth, or just because like they think it's funny, so that's how they're going to respond. So there will always be these outliers. So a 90% rate of people naming things as like being better if they were to be changed in this way is really outrageous. So What's going on? Is it just that people are complaining? So the answer is no. The people aren't just complaining. It's not that they think everything is terrible and so everything has a way to go forward. When asked how things are right now, people were perfectly happy to say that things were great. In fact, on average, only a very few items in the list got negative ratings in general, and they were things like the news and politics and coronavirus.
Okay.
So generally, people already viewed these things as good, and yet still found ways that they could be made better. So the second question, is this a case of optimism bias? We already know that people have a general bias towards optimism. But optimism is the belief that things could get better, not necessarily that they will. So was this a belief that like everybody thought in their study thought things will definitely get better? And the answer is no, not really. They asked participants how likely each of their imagined changes were, from 0 to like it definitely will not happen to 100 that it definitely will happen. The result was about 50-50. So like it's not an optimism bias happening here.
That's really interesting, and I'm now very curious about research generally about optimism, because I'm wondering, like, I've been noticing it myself because of the state of the world in the last 5 years, that I'm a lot more cynical than I'd like to be.
Yeah.
But I wonder generally.
The paper does have some links towards a general bias thing, so when I share the paper itself with you,
Nice.
you can follow through on that.
Hey, you're hitting me right where I'm at.
Yep.
This is great.
Okay. But the first thing that they really saw as a potential problem is like, are we just asking the question strangely? Is it because of the way we're asking the question? When we say how could things be different, do people assume that we mean how could things be better?
Wow, interesting.
And the answer was, yeah, kind of. It's possible that that's the case. So let's do another study and change up our phrasing. So they took another group. They did a series of questions of like, if we ask different, if we ask better or worse, or if we change that and say ask worse or better, what do you assume we are asking? And in general, people think that depending on the way you ask, it does actually change what people's assumption is.
But that is such an interesting. So this figure that Edie is showing right now, they asked the question: if we asked you different, how could things be different?
People assume you mean better.
Assume
Like roughly 50% of people, a little more than 50% of people assume you mean
When you say how could things be different, folks assume you mean how could things be better.
right.
But then 25% on top of that think it's a mix of better or worse. But almost nobody thinks that different means worse.
Similarly, if you ask better or worse, people assume you want a mix of answers. So this was a sort of a sub study that they did just asking this question, and they got pretty conclusive results there that this may have been affecting their first study.
Yeah, language is bad.
Yeah. So
But why nobody, even when mix of better or worse is the primary thing, better does better than worse.
Yeah.
yeah.
Better is always the second most assumed. So we are still assuming.
We're still assuming
are
better,
assuming.
generally. Yeah.
If you say better or worse, then people
That you
think
mean better.
Better. And
Yeah.
then if they say worse or better, they still think that you mean better.
We're creating this default that when we imagine a thing to be different, we mean it to be better.
Weird.
So
Really
they
weird.
ran the study again. They went back, they did it again with 158 people. Half of them they asked, how could this item be better or worse? The other half they asked, how could this item be worse or better? And what they found out is it doesn't matter. The results were almost exactly the same.
So for folks listening, Edie is showing another chart. It's very similar to last one, -3 to +3. And again, it shows that basically everybody, when asked this question, is imagining the thing improving in some way with their change.
Now, the study never gets into it, but I do find it interesting that in pretty much all of these, the average comes out to be like just under a +2 on this 3-point scale. So it's not like they're not imagining it to be way better. They're imagining it to be moderately better.
Okay.
Every
Just
time.
a little bit.
Which
Just
I personally find kind of funny. But again, we have to ask, is this just because we're asking weird questions, or is this a thing that people like do naturally on a daily basis? Is this because we're asking specifically about like random refrigerators and like we're giving them a list of things? Or in your day-to-day life when you think about stuff, are you thinking about ways to make it better? So they did another study. And they said, "What you thinking about?
Okay.
What you thinking about, friends?" And they took 154 people, and they said, "All right, we need you to list 3 thoughts that you have had recently about whether something could be better or worse." Pretty simple. And on a day-to-day basis, regular people, regular thoughts. 2/3 of people reported that their thoughts were about how something could be better.
So we're finding everybody in the mall who's currently having an anxiety attack is what we're doing.
Basically.
That's what this has become. Hey, are you spiraling right now?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, Pat, because they said, hold on. The sample has to be off, right? What if our
Yeah.
population is predisposed to being depressed, anxious, or otherwise neurotic,
Yep.
Right.
right? They had the same conclusion you did, Pat, of like, these people gotta be crazy. So guess what they did?
Oh no.
They did another study.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, hey, I love studies. We love studies over here.
This. I mean, each of these trial runs costs at least $250. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna start
Oh,
adding up pretty
I
quickly. We're on round 5.
Yeah,
But I see why we're only giving it $1 now.
right?
Well, I'm just amazed in comparison to a lot of our studies. I feel like this one has had is pretty flush on funding.
It's relatively, I suppose, yeah.
Do you
So-
think that surveying people in the mall cost more or less than dead spiders?
So I will say they're doing this through an online service where
Okay.
where you can do studies to get paid, and they are like intended to be quick things. You make a buck here, a buck there. Like it is.
Oh,
it
I
is,
did these in college. This is how I used to get lunch.
yeah. You may have participated in this study. Who knows?
I might have.
So they did a study with 250 people. They basically just reran the first study, but this time they asked participants to fill out a depression scale, an anxiety scale, and a Big 5 personality test, because they were testing for essentially neurological demographics to see if that is affecting their results here, if their sample is somehow tainted. Turns out, even depressed people imagine how things could be better. Once again,
I mean,
every single item was imagined better.
that does check out though, right? Because if I'm sitting here thinking about how I'm imagining things changing, it is mostly, for me, under the lens of preparing for projects in the future. So it's like, what do I have a problem and how am I going to fix it? And it could be as simple as like, I haven't done the dishes in a bit, and so the sink is full and I'm gonna do dishes, and that will be better.
That'll be
Or
better,
like,
right?
a project at work is like to build this particular organization table that's gonna like be better than the one I'm using to store drills right now, and so like the one that I have works, but this new one will be better.
Right.
Unless I'm worrying about something, which if you've got anxiety brain, you can spiral down. I think even still, most of my stuff is going to be planning for the future, and it's going to be planning on how I can improve stuff in my life.
Right. So, as you've both noticed, we are now on the 5th study of this this paper, right?
Oh yeah, I'm counting. We spent $12.50.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that for a minute, because I've put a quote in here in which you can see that the researcher has said, "That's replication, baby," with a sunglass wearing smiley face.
Okay.
So let's talk about replication for a second, because there is a phenomenon in pretty much all of science at the moment, but particularly in the psychological field, called the replication crisis, which is to say that there is something in the methodology of how we do research papers that makes them incredibly difficult to replicate, particularly in psychology, where approximately 30% to 70%
It's a big range.
of replication rate is the replication rate on psychological studies, right? So it could be as low as a third of all psychological studies that are able to be replicated at all. It is incredibly difficult because the circumstances change frequently. Any sort of nuance in the questioning, in the temperament of the people on that particular day, can wildly change your results over time.
I mean, even just the service, right? You were saying that this was like an online sort of like thing. Like, I definitely did these in college, kind of a thing. I think that those are mostly applicable to, like, again, college age kids or other folks on the who has lots of time and not lots of money. Like me right now, I'm not gonna like seek out one of these surveys and do these. But back then I did.
You absolutely nailed it. So that is exactly why they are doing this study so many times. They are trying to prove that this is not just like a one-off thing, but they can in fact replicate it, and they can beat out this replication crisis in the way they are doing this study. And so, again, their very next question was about sample size or like where they are getting their folks from, except they weren't just thinking of it simply about the online service they were using. They were thinking, hey, is this a distinctly American phenomenon?
Oh, interesting.
That was my next thought. Is I was going to say, like, we're talking about like the language differences. We're talking about the language differences even in English, right? And how that can change the question. I mean, like, looking at different populations, right? Like, do the French folks think the same as Americans?
Right. Well, they didn't ask about French folks specifically. What they said is, it's time to go to Poland, baby!
wait,
Okay, Poland.
Sure.
I wonder why Poland.
Why Poland, you ask? Well, they say,
no.
why not? You got a problem with Polish people? Are you not a fan of pierogies? Do you not know about Dingus Day?
What?
Oh,
What?
wait.
What's happening?
The paper now goes on a wild tangent
Wait.
to talk about
Wait.
Dingus
Hold
Day.
on.
Okay.
You got to stop for a
Okay.
second. So we have a slide. Have you heard about Dingus Day? Which I haven't. This is a snippet from the paper where the paper stops.
This is a direct quote from the paper.
Where the paper stops doing
Stops entirely.
psychology to instead
Correct.
tell you about Dingus Day.
Absolutely correct.
Not a fan of pierogi. Pierogi is literally on here.
Yep.
I mean, I do love pierogies.
Yep.
But this seems like a weird place for them to show up.
There is then an image that is like taken from Wikipedia that is of a bunch of men wearing strange colored clothing, pouring something onto a woman. And it says, Dingus in Wilamowieś, southern Poland, where the men wander around the town in colorful handmade costumes in search of a woman to soak.
I don't like Dingus Day.
Underneath it says, how could Dingus Day be different? I could not be soaked by so many men in colorful costumes.
I
Wait.
have
Wait.
just learned of Dingus Day, and I think that there are some problems with Dingus Day.
I would agree. The paper makes no real further commentary on Dingus Day except to note that it exists and you should know about it.
What?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
What's happening? I thought you were doing this to us, but this is the paper doing this
This
to
is the
us?
paper doing this to us. We're gonna come
Hold
back
on.
to why.
I wasn't
there is a
like-
why. We're gonna come back to it later.
Engineering papers are not allowed to even have the fun names that the biology papers get to have, and the psychologists are talking about Dingus Day.
It's really funny that you mentioned that. We're gonna come back to that, James. We're gonna come back
What
to
do
it.
we do?
I promise.
There's no rules in the other departments.
I promise there is reason to all of this madness. You're gonna be upset with me about the reason, and then you're gonna come around to it. There's a game I'm playing here. You'll get there.
Oh my god.
Okay, so they did the study with Polish people, 95 Polish people to be specific, and they found, yep, Polish people imagine a brighter future too. Same results, everything above the line. You were looking. This graph should be very familiar to you at this point because it looks almost identical to all of the other studies where people are again imagining things
We
better.
got +3, -3, and all the points are above that neutral line.
We're not done yet though, because Poland, while not America,
It is firmly not America, that's for sure.
it is firmly not America, but it is still a Western culture. So
Okay.
what if it is a Western culture thing? Okay.
Okay.
Study number 7. Let's do it in Mandarin.
Huh. The chart's the same.
Chart is the same. Same
Weirdly,
exact thing.
weirdly, even more positive.
Or really, it's still in that, like, just averaging just below 2 plus 2,
Yeah.
but there are less negative responses. And then we do study number 8. And at this point, even the researcher is losing track of why they're doing studies.
What?
And so to quote from the paper, I have a confession to make. I don't remember why we ran this study. I definitely remember seeing the results and going, yes, we nailed it. It all makes sense. But now I can't remember why. I asked Ethan about it and he was like, bro, I do not even remember running this one. So if you can figure out why we ran this study, please let us know.
I'd like to pause for a second here, and I'd like to bring into question the people writing this paper.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't get ahead of me.
Normally I'm questioning the science we're doing, but I think the science is fine, and I have concerns about bro over here.
We're getting there in a minute. I promise. You're getting a little bit ahead of me, but like you're on the right track here.
Okay. All right.
This final study was a speed run.
What?
Uh-huh.
So this is essentially going back to what Pat was asking in the beginning about the sort of dollar amount bias being an interesting thing, because what they thought, like, well, let's run this quickly. So we're going to do the same time limit on the study, but we're going to offer an extra 25 cents if the participant is able to list more ways that a thing could be different than the average participant.
Okay.
When they did this, they found that people came up with less ways that a thing could be different.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, 25 my time is worth, my effort is worth more than 25 cents. So screw you, survey person.
This is weirdly connected to a problem that I've had in game design that we were
Yeah.
talking about. Just to kind of reiterate here, like,
You give an incentive and people do worse.
yeah, like there's a thing that I often find in testing where if an incentive is too small or doesn't make a big enough change in the game, you've probably seen this in like video game RPGs where like there'll be like a skill tree or something and it gives you like 2% boost to whatever, and like it's not exciting, it's not interesting, it doesn't make for very good game design, and folks won't engage with it. And so like in tabletop, what I run into is folks actively not doing beneficial actions that cost them nothing, because if they don't perceive the value to be high enough, basically. And so a lot of game design is me finding ways to trick players into doing what is good for them, like the eat your broccoli of game design. And this definitely falls into that idea that it's like, okay, you get like 1/4, you get 25% more money if you just list a couple more things, and folks are so turned off by that idea that they actually do less than if it wasn't offered in the first place.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's a whole other study that I
Whole
think is
different
hiding
study.
inside of here.
But fascinating.
But checks anecdotally out with my direct experience in testing games for about 10 years.
But generally, even when they did this, like yes, people came up with less ways, but they were still coming up with ways things could be better on average. That was, the results were still the same in that sense, which is what they were really trying to prove here. So, seems pretty conclusive overall. People naturally imagine how things could be better. They've done this across 8 different studies with over like 1,000 people involved. And across the board, the results are like consistent and like pretty clearly on one side.
But
So now you have to ask the questions that you have
Yeah.
been really asking all along. Who are the authors? Where
Yep.
was this published? And what's the point?
Oh boy.
All right. So here's the thing. As far as let's start with what's the point for a second, as far as the study itself, because they do not really make any sort of determination on the why of this, right? Like they've proven that people generally imagine things to be better, but they do a little bit of conjecture of like maybe this is part of our evolutionary process of like this is how we as a species continue to advance, is like it is part of our evolutionary advantage to imagine things better because then we work towards that. They also like put some conjecture around like maybe this is at the root of some depression type stuff of like why a state of happiness can be so hard to achieve because you are always imagining the ways that the things you have could be better, or why like money can't buy happiness, that sort of thing. But they don't really get into that's about it. Really, the end point, quote unquote, of this paper is people imagine things to be better as a general phenomenon. Who are the authors? Who are these people? Ethan Peary and Adam Mastroianni. Ethan is sort of the co-author on this paper. He is not the actual writer here. He was a PhD student at NYU's psychology department, has a bachelor in cognitive science from Hampshire College, and is generally just a good friend of the primary author, Adam. Adam is a doctor of psychology, got his doctorate in psychology from Harvard in 2021, and is a publisher of a website called Experimental History.
Okay.
And Experimental History has been published, has had articles published in the New York Times, The Atlantic, NPR, Slate, whole bunch of other things. And what Adam says is, to quote him directly, "I think science should be done out in the open, unfiltered, and reviewed by anyone who cares to comment. I think it should be exciting and funny. I think it should take things people care about and try to understand them better. Sometimes that means gathering a bunch of original data, and other times that means thinking about an idea really hard until it cracks open like a walnut. That's what experimental history is all about." So,
Okay.
this paper, remember way back in the beginning when I started doing this presentation, I did tell you we were gonna break a few rules.
Okay.
And that you weren't gonna like those rules being broken.
Yeah.
This paper is not published in a peer-reviewed journal.
Edie.
E-
Hey. My Loch
Did-
Ness Monster paper is gonna be published.
Here's the
Is
thing.
there even an intention to do that with this one?
No, there isn't. In fact, hold on. No. In fact, there is very intentionally a reason not to.
Okay.
The end of this paper talks about the barrier that is created by scientific journals and being published in them. He talks very much about the idea that this paper could not be published in a scientific journal because it is not dry enough. He says, in fact, that one of his papers, a reviewer literally told him that the paper was too fun and they need to make it more boring. No other notes about the paper. He talks about reviewers rejecting things so that they will not be seen intentionally. And he talks about this being a really stupid way to do science that is actually contributing to the replication crisis that he is actively working against here.
Interesting.
Which leads further to a publication bias, where reviewers prefer studies with statistically significant results that confirm their pre-existing biases, filling the literature with junk articles that are never cited at all. Doing peer review this way costs more than $1 billion a year on money that could be spent on other things, like elaborate Dingus Day costumes.
God damn it.
Instead, he puts all of his data, all of his information publicly on this website. You can review the paper right where it is. You can add your comments. You can do whatever you want with the paper to try and replicate it yourself. He welcomes people to do this, and people have in fact done this. And he talks about the idea that if he had published this in a journal, there is a good chance we would not be talking about it at all right now. Because the only way to access that would be to belong to an institution that pays millions of dollars for scientific journal subscriptions, or to use a pirate website like Sci-Hub, which he then, of course, says he does not recommend because it's illegal and bad. He does also link directly to it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're right. I'm coming around a little bit.
And he ends by saying, it's almost as if we can't help but imagine ways that scientific publishing could be better. Somebody should write a paper about that.
Okay. All right, we came back around.
So, while it is not in a peer-reviewed journal, I think he has a very good argument about why it's not. And all of the data is there. He is a respected scientist and has, like I said, this has been published in many, many places. It is technically peer reviewed, just not in the way you would expect it to be.
Yeah, peer reviewed, but by the internet doesn't sound good.
Peer reviewed by the internet, but if you look at the people that did some of the reviewing
Sure.
on there, it is again, it's scientists. It's the type of people that would be on a review board for a
Yeah.
publication type journal, right? So he's trying to do this thing where he's talking about, like, there is a academic class that is shutting out people from doing science, and not necessarily just because of scientific rigor, but because of this sort of elitism.
I love the heart and intention behind that sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, if this doesn't flag me as an outlier in this thing that we're talking about, but wouldn't it be better if this was different? This one maybe wouldn't be better if all science could be reviewed by all people. Because listen, like, fucking look around at the last 5 years, basically. What happens when we crowdsource quote unquote cures to viral infections? What happens when we crowdsource belief on the side effects of vaccination?
No, I think that's a very, very fair point.
Yeah. I love the heart behind this. I love this idea of, like, find ways to open science to everybody, but
right.
I think a line needs to be drawn pretty quickly between making science accessible to everyone,
right,
and making sure that everyone can do science, and making sure that everybody can get their hand on the ball, because I actually don't want everybody to get their hand on the ball.
Yeah, that's a really, really fine line to walk, I think, because part of what he's saying here is that there is this documented problem of replication, and the publication system we use, which is part of the overall methodology of how science is conducted, at least in the United States, is adding to that. And so we have to try different methodologies to try and get around that, and maybe this is one way we could do it. I don't know that I buy it as an answer, but, like, I think his point comes across pretty clearly there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on the record here, at least, if not in real life all the time, of this idea of, like, the fun in this paper is good. I don't think that there is I think it is bad to write a thing that you are not energized about and will not have fun with. I mean, quite frankly, that's every one of our little presentations on every one of the episodes of this show, but it also, that's how I try and do lesson plans in my classes. That's how I try to do panel talks when I'm, like, presenting a panel to PAX, right? Like, there has to be, like, a really fun element mixed in with whatever message, whatever educational piece I'm trying to get across. Otherwise, it is too dry and too boring, and literally no one can ever stand it. And hopefully the things that you do are fun and you care about them.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit with some of the other papers too, that, like, a good percentage of what you're doing in a research paper is, like, marketing and like
science communication.
And so I think, like, there's a real point of, like, science doesn't have to be boring and slow and dry. Like, most published papers could use with a punch-up process. Like,
yeah, that's real. I think that the challenge that I see is that there's an important part of peer review that is the paper that you submit to the journal is your 10th version, say, of that paper. But the best experience you could hope to have in the review process is that a smart person with different and deep experience reads your paper and gives you a suggestion to make it better.
Right.
And that is not what the comment section is.
No, because the comment section is trying to poke holes as much as possible. But, like, some piece of it is not just... is collaborative rather than adversarial.
Yes, but the collaboration stuff is also tricky because not to talk too much shit about economics, but I will. But like one of the like economics sometimes feels to me like an echo chamber, where the same like you have like people who agree that capitalism is the only way for things to go, and so they just kind of boost each other up. Or in more smaller niches, if you and your buddies start peer reviewing each other's papers, you can very quickly get to either styles or content that is not, I don't know, universally true. You can have haters in the comments, and you can also have sycophants in the comments. If you have your buddies read your paper, they're not going to tell you the hard things, which is why most review is anonymous and separated, and you never know who read your paper, because then they feel like they can tell you the hard thing without it affecting social relationships. So like there's some of that missing, I think. Like I fully agree that the publishing system is propped up on free labor by highly qualified people, and then is paywalled off so that the average person can't see it. Like, it's a mess. Like, and the only people benefiting are Elsevier. Yeah. Elsevier and the other publishers.
There's something to be said about freedom of knowledge and access to that knowledge, right? Like, why are so many of these papers locked behind paywalls? And we've I think all three of us have encountered this in trying to find papers to talk about here.
Hey, I used Sci-Hub yesterday, so...
James, don't admit to that. It's illegal and bad.
It's fine. It is illegal and bad. I used it to, see if it worked, but then I didn't copy the
But you didn't read the paper, right? And you
I
deleted it immediately.
He used it to search for where he could find a real source for the paper.
There you go. Okay.
Yes, I needed to figure out like what the website for Nature was.
The spelling's tricky.
Yeah, it's true. It is. There's an E in there. Did you know?
That's wild. No, I had no idea. Okay. So, we got to do our scales.
Yeah, we do. All right.
Oh boy.
Okay, so I'm gonna. In the past, we have had papers where Loch Ness, for example, the point of the paper was science communication.
Right.
I respect that the science communication is this team's ethos. I'm not certain that this paper exists for that reason. I think that they are doing this study and they are presenting it on a platform that they have that has that ethos.
Yes, I mean they do talk about that ethos directly at the end as like a final note on publishing, but it is like a separate addendum note. It is not. You're right that it is like.
Is it an addendum that they add to all their papers?
Maybe I'm not. I haven't read enough of their papers to know that for sure. But like there is this like larger platform that they are trying to do this on, the sort of experimentalhistory.com. Like that is their thing.
Yeah, it just feels in comparison to other ones, it feels a little more separate.
It is a side plot.
Some of the things we've looked at before. Yeah, just wanted to before we delve into the because I think we've kind of covered how we feel about the totally open source paper system that they're promoting.
Yes.
The study itself.
I think that like on the scales that we've kind of developed in this first season of our podcast here,
extremely rigorously.
Yes. Yeah, well thought out entirely.
Peer reviewed even.
Peer reviewed.
Hey, it's about to be when we put it out. Peer review our scale system.
Oh my God! No,
please don't. Please don't.
Don't tell people to. No, God.
In fact, if you listen to this, don't ever tell us about it.
Please. As far as like ridiculous stuff to do, I think. Is it ridiculous to go on the internet and ask people a weird question and then statistically go through all the data? I don't know. I don't think that's that weird. I think it's not that ridiculous.
No, it's not. It's not the weirdest question I've seen on the internet today.
Yeah.
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 So as far as ridiculous goes, pretty low.
It might be a 1.
This feels like a 1 to me. Well,
I would say
I don't know.
based on the framing that they use in the paper, which is that like it was two buds sitting eating omelets and started thinking about this, and they dropped their omelets and started doing studies. Like I'd give it a 1.5 or a 2.
Yeah, 1.5 or 2 feels good.
Well, you know that there are no half scales.
I know there are
so
no half
if-
scales, and so I would give it a 2.
So if we've got 2 votes for 2, I can accept 2, but it's a low 2.
Yep.
It's a low 2. That's right.
I like that we don't do percentages, but I have immediately insisted that we give numbers high and low versions of themselves.
Yeah, but there's no half scales.
But there's no
Don't be ridiculous.
No half scales. Don't be-
because I know
of
that we've
course
done that
not.
before. Anyway.
Yep. A low 2.
Oh my god. And as far as research goes, I think it's interesting. I think it's a small portion of a much larger story. You know, because you're asking one question. Like, unfortunately, we have a lot of depth of human experience, and one question doesn't actually begin to scratch the surface. So, like,
Well, and I think it's notable that, like, as we were talking about the methodology and, like, the wording and stuff, we all at one point chimed in and was like, well, what if they did like this? Well, what if they did like that? So it seems like there's a dozen more versions of this study they could do.
Yeah. And I think that in a lot of ways is their intention of like, hey, we found this interesting phenomenon. What does it mean? We don't know, but somebody else should figure it out.
yeah. And I will once again register my feeling that, like, any
Psychology
rating-
isn't a real science, and that the only real
oh
science
my
is...
god. No, don't you freaking dare.
I don't know. I heard James say that directly. I'm pretty sure that's a direct quote.
No, God. Is that if we if a research score of a 5 is like world changing, we'll never hit a 5.
We've said, we didn't say world-changing, we said daily life applicable.
Right.
That is even worse. I don't know. Is this daily life applicable? Yeah, kinda. I don't know.
Kinda.
It'll change my journaling. It'll change my journaling a little bit.
James, I think you need to hold your journal in higher esteem. Get some
If
self-confidence,
your
bro.
journaling was different, would it be better?
Would I be better in the future? I don't know. So I don't know.
This feels like a 3 to me. It feels like those other, like, sort of like studies. We've seen a couple of, like, contributing to bodies of work, but are not a whole picture in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
What do we get tree farts? Remind me what we gave tree farts, because this feels like the tree farts of psychology papers.
Let me. Feels like the tree farts of psychology.
Which sounds like an insult, but honestly, like, tree farts was a good study.
Hold on, I'm pulling up my spreadsheet. Yeah, same thing. We gave tree farts a 3 for research.
That tracks for me. I
Yeah.
mean, like, a solid contribution to wide body of research feels right.
So we're saying 2 ridiculous, a low 2 on the ridiculous
Low 2.
scale. And a 3 for research.
Yeah.
I love it.
Solid.
Good work, Optimism.
Good work, Optimism.